On today's Tax Thursday, I want to talk about the Caregiver Credit. Now, 2 weeks ago, our humorous video of the week called The Team. Now, if you're on YouTube, you can see it right there. I'm going to place a little box there with our video. You can click on that and watch The Team. If you're on Facebook, you can go to our Facebook page and you can scroll until you see The Team and have a watch it. It's pretty fun. The team, our tax team at PV3 Tax, we assemble because someone owes taxes and we take on the job and we make sure that that person doesn't have to pay any taxes. And part of that video, at the very end, Cynthia splurts out, "What about the caregiver credit?" And I said, "Yeah, that's it. Nathan, try that out." And we saved the day from that person owing taxes. And we used the caregiver credit to make that happen. So that's what I want to talk about in today's serious tax video. But before I talk about the different types of caregiver credit, because there are 4 of them, I want to describe what the caregiver credit is. Now, the caregiver credit is a non-refundable tax credit that can be claimed by individuals who are supporting an infirm spouse or common law partner, or if they're supporting an infirm dependent aged 18 or older, or finally, if they're supporting an infirm dependent who is 18 or younger. Now, there's some key components to being able to claim this credit. And one of those components is the word support, or you could also imply the word dependent. Someone is supporting a dependent, or a dependent is being supported by someone. Now, according to Income Tax Folio S1F4C2, in discussing this matter, discussing subsection 1118 or 118(1) in the Income Tax Act, the word support is not specifically defined in the Income Tax Act. Therefore, it does make it a little bit gray. But primarily, when the Income Tax Act uses the word support, it generally means that it's the provision of basic necessities of life, such as food, shelter, or clothing. So in layman's terms, if you're housing a person, paying for their food and clothing, you are supporting that person. But because the definition of support isn't defined, it is a little bit gray, and it's not a hard and fast rule. The second primary component to the caregiver credit is the idea that the dependent must have a mental or physical impairment. But again, the terms mental or physical infirmity or impairment are not specifically defined in the Income Tax Act. So they take on the normal meaning of the word, which still can mean quite a bit. It does not mean disabled, though. Infirm and disabled are 2 different words. Disability requires the disability form, which is the T2201, which your doctor has to sign off on and has to be approved by the CRA. Infirmity does not carry as high of a requirement as the disability, but it does usually mean that your doctor has to sign off on it. And it means that it's a prolonged infirmity. It's not something that is a temporary. So if you break your arm, you're not infirm because it's going to be a short-term injury that you're going to be able to heal from. So you want to be careful about what you're claiming. But if you believe that you are supporting a dependent who has a mental or physical infirmity, then there's a good chance that you can claim this non-refundable tax credit. There are 4 different versions, like I said earlier, of the caregiver credit, and they show up on 4 different lines on the tax return. The first caregiver credit shows up on line 30425, and it's on the federal section of the income tax return. And it is in regards to claiming the caregiver amount for a spouse or common law partner or eligible dependent who is 18 or younger. And this would generally include your spouse or one of your children if you're single. If they have a physical or mental impairment, you can claim the caregiver credit up to an amount of $7,276 in credits, which works out to about $1,091 on your tax refund. The second possibility for claiming the caregiver credit is found on line 30450 on the federal portion of your income tax return. It's very similar to the credit I just mentioned, but in this case, the credit is for an infirm dependent who is 18 years or older, who's not your eligible dependent. Now that can be a child, a parent, a grandparent, a brother, a sister, an aunt or uncle, or anyone who is 18 years or older in that category who has a mental or physical infirmity. Now, the third possibility of claiming the caregiver credit is found on line 30500. This one's a little bit different. This is for it's also on the federal portion of your tax return, but it's for children who are under 18 years of age. For every child that's under 18 years of age who is infirm due to mental or physical impairment, the amount is $2,373 per child in non-refundable tax credits, which works itself out to $355.95 per child. The fourth version of the caregiver credit is found on the provincial version. Now, I live in Ontario, and most of the clients that I have deal with are in Ontario. For the Ontario, it's found on form ON 428, and it is called the Ontario Caregiver Amount. One thing I forgot to mention, that is, with the caregiver credit, you don't necessarily they don't have to necessarily live with you, but you do have to be paying for housing, food, or clothing. So it's not a matter of you're physically taking care of that person in a health sense where you're going to their house and taking care of them. It has more to do with the financial side thing, that you're paying for those things. If you are paying for them, then you can claim it whether or not you live with them or not. Now back to the first two versions, the line 30425 and 30450, this is how the calculation works. First, there's a prescribed amount of $24,361. That is the amount. You take that amount, subtract out the dependent's income, and whatever is left over to a maximum of $7,276 can be claimed on your tax return as the caregiver amount. So in layman's terms, if your dependent makes less than $17,085, you can claim the full amount. If they make more than the $24,361, then you can't claim any of it. And if they make in the middle, the closer they get to the $24,000, the less you're allowed to claim. For the Ontario Caregiver Credit, the fourth version, it's the same calculation but with different amounts. So you would take, instead of the $24,361, we use $22,470. From that, we subtract out the dependent's income, and what's left over to a maximum of $5,082, you can claim that on the Ontario 428 form. And this works itself out to be $256.64. Finally is the third version, which is a different calculation than the other three. How it works is for every child under 18 that is infirm due to mental or physical impairment, you can claim $2,373 in non-refundable tax credits per child, which works out to $355.95. So I hope you've enjoyed all these awesome tax calculations, because they're great, right? Well, if you don't think so, we do. We love doing this kind of stuff. We like the math, we like helping people out, we like making sure you get the most refund you possibly can, and we enjoy doing this. If you hate doing it, well, why don't you get us to do it? We're PB3 Tax. We're in Ayr, Ontario, found in the Watson Mall, 45 Stanley Street, Unit 203. We'd love to do your taxes. We hope to see you, and we'll see you soon.